Okay, now we're live, so it says. Let me check and make sure it did pop up in the group.
Allegedly.
Oh, and then do you have, oh, there's the comment section. Okay. Oh, people are already there waiting. Yay.
Oh, sweet.
I know. Hi,
No
everyone.
pressure.
Yeah, no pressure. I'm here with Natalie. Natalie, do you want to introduce yourself to everyone and let them know what you do?
Sure. Hello, my name is Natalie Thurman. I breed Livestock Guardian Dogs, and I train other people on how to train their Livestock Guardian Dogs. I do some rehab, retrain on dogs that have done bad things. They've been led astray. Maybe they came from Craigslist, who knows. I try to keep working LGDs out of shelters and out of rescue if they're just going to be put in a house, is what I do that for. But yeah, I'm in Western Montana. We have all the things that could possibly want to eat your goats or sheep. We have black bear, grizzly bear, cougars, wolves, coyotes, Sasquatch. All the things.
Okay. Do you get bobcats up there at all?
I haven't seen any. I've heard of a lynx, and one of my neighbors claims to have seen a badger. And I'm like, did you run? Are you smart?
We have badgers.
They're mean.
And skunks.
Skunks have never been a problem for us. When we first moved here, we had issues with raccoons. We had like a family of raccoons that was like, thank you so much for buying us all these chicks. Like, that was really big of you. We learned some things.
Yeah, I had a skunk eat one of my chickens here. I knew because it smelled like a skunk. So.
Yeah, no. Not a fan.
Yeah. So what kind of dogs do you raise? Like what breeds?
Oof. Okay, so there's going to be a quiz later on how to pronounce this. So I have Charplaninots, which is spelled Sarplananak, which is not how you say it, but it's easier to spell if you say it like that. They're from Macedonia, Serbia area on the Sharplanina mountain range, like kind of between the two. Used to be Yugoslavia, and before that it was like, other things. But it's in the Balkans, and it's a tumultuous area where no one agrees who actually is the right owner of the culture of the dogs. So it's like there's a lot of arguments on the proper pronunciation and heritage, all that good stuff. What matters is that they actually are effective in keeping stuff from eating my stuff, right?
Yeah.
So they do that. And then I primarily have Anatolian Shepherds, which are from Turkey, long coat, short coat, usually tan with a black mask, but can be technically any color. And they are also very, very effective. But they're more common. So it's easier to say Anatolian. I think that's why they're more common, maybe.
So just thinking, because our area, we have a pretty harsh climate up here, and it gets pretty cold. And I believe there were a couple of questions about choosing a livestock guardian breed for different climates. So is there something you'd recommend up here versus somewhere that's a lot hotter, or weather?
Honestly, at the end of the day, it doesn't actually matter how long guard hairs are. What matters is that their parents, if you're looking at a puppy, they have proper double coat. So what that means is that when they shed, they actually shed completely all of their down coat. You can have a very short-haired Anatolian who doesn't shed properly, who hangs on and impacts that fuzzy winter coat and holds it straight through September, and then you're having mats and overheating issues, that kind of stuff. And you can have a long-haired LGD, the rare odd Pyrenees can have a good coat, that actually sheds out completely, and the airflow does get through the guard hairs in the summer and helps cool them down. So it really depends on the quality of the coat in the line more than the actual breed or length even of the guard hair. We get down to about minus 25 each winter for a day or two, and then we get up to 105 max for maybe 3 days. in the summer, and we always cool down at night where I am up by Missoula. So it's not the same as the South where like you're A, very humid, and B, it doesn't cool off at night. So you have no escape from it, right? Obviously, I think it's more of a management issue. I'm here from Phoenix, so I know what hot is. Before people are like, you're just in Montana, you don't know. I know people who raise Kuvas and Marimas down in Tucson, Arizona, which is hot. So longer coats can totally function as long as the coat works and does its job. And it is up to us to help them. Coat rakes, no furminators. They're not wired hair. You don't need to card them. But yeah, just as long as they're able to clear their winter coat out, they'll be fine with shade.
Okay. So is that something that you would ask like a breeder? Or is there a way to like find proof? Because we all know how some backyard breeders are.
Yeah, well, you know. So I would ask for blowout pictures. Anyone with a double coated dog, whether it's a healer or a peer, an Anatolian, will know what that means. Like show me the fluff pile. Show me what they're doing. And they'll be like, that is the weirdest question I've ever had. And also they'll be like, but I'm so glad you asked because I took a picture of it. It's like guys take pictures of weird stuff. Women tend to take pictures of their dogs, and the hair will like form it into the shape of our dog and be like, we got 2 dogs for the price of 1. Ha, ha, ha. You know, weird stuff like that we would never do in this group. No.
I don't do it with my Rottweiler.
No, it's crazy. But like, yeah, just seeing how much hair is coming off of them, asking what tools they have to use, asking if they have to go to the groomer, if they get shaved. Don't ask like, you know, oh, you never shave them, right? Like, you just be like, so what am I looking at for grooming wise? Like, do I have to brush them out? Does it come out on its own? Like, what am I looking at? I just want to be prepared. Don't be like, and if you say the wrong thing, I'm not giving you any money. Because that might not help you get the right answer or the accurate answer. It might help you get the right answer. But anytime you can, I recommend just visiting a breeder too. It's not a requirement to get a dog like from your neighborhood or from your state or even from your country if you're like exotic. It's a good idea to see what you're dealing with lineage wise. So if you can see grandparents and parents and then the puppy litter, that's ideal. It's not always possible, but there's technology now with the internet that you can at least video chat and see like, okay, it's a lot. How old is grandma? She's 15. Excellent. Right.
Yeah. So. Yeah. And I know you are into all the health testing and everything, which is awesome. What health tests would you recommend to have done on the parents before you get a puppy?
Sure. So every breed is a little different. Breed clubs are responsible for deciding if they want to work with CHIC, Canine Health Information Center, which is run by OFA. Basically what that is the breed club does a health study, a survey to all of its members. And they're like, how are your dogs? How have all your dogs died? Have they gotten ill? Did they need a ACL repair? Did they get sinus issues? Like, it's just very oddly specific. And what they're digging for is finding things that either run in a line or sprinkled throughout the whole feed. And then they're not really going to be interested in testing things that run in lines, but they are going to be interested in recommending testing for things that are sprinkled throughout different lines, because that can run in the whole breed. And that's what they want you to test for. So for example, with the Anatolians, it's hips and elbows. Those are both x-rays. They can be or not be sedated. My vet is a repro vet, and he is very particular that they should be sedated, because if you watch how they actually act on an x-ray table when they're awake, they're more tense, and that can actually artificially improve your scores theoretically, which is not the point of health testing. If you're doing it for your own knowledge to know what you're working with rather than just trying to pass so you can sell more puppies. So I do pen hip also, which is so OFA is pretty subjective. It's a basically 3 orthopedic vets take a vote on your hip x-rays and your elbow x-rays. And they either say like, I think that's good. Bob thinks it's good. Sheila thinks they're excellent. That's a good. And you can have one who thinks it's moderate dysplasia, 2 think they're good hips. That's also a good, right? So it's like they if 2 agree, that's what you get. It's not surefire and it's not as scientific maybe as pen hip, which is literally measurements of the hip socket and the laxity in it, so how much it moves under pressure and under strain.
Okay.
So there's no good way for me to demonstrate this in my car. But for OFAs, they just they stretch your hips down straight, and you want the feet to be lined up together. There's a lot of bad hip x-rays, and I can like upload some examples of like just wonky ones that can make a good hip dog look terrible, or you can tell they're really manipulated and turned in to make maybe a poorly hip dog look good. And then with pen hip, they do the extended, and then they do them like up. This is terrible. I'm so sorry. And they do them spread out, which it's terrible. I'm sorry. I should have got a chart. Views of the hip joint, and they measure it on each view. And if 2 views agree and 1 view is a little looser or a little tighter, especially if one of them's tighter, pen hip will come back to the vet and be like, you didn't sedate that dog enough. Because ideally they're supposed to be the same measurement for all 3 views. That's how you know it's a consistent score. I like pen hip better. It is significantly more expensive, just a fair warning. But you actually get quantitative data on how your hips look. And then you can use that to monitor your line over time, which is hopefully the goal, right?
Yeah.
Health testing.
Yeah.
You want to know what you're producing and if it's an improvement or a backward step from your parent dogs, and then you know who to breed maybe that dog to either improve or maintain. And you can prioritize then hip health over maybe a coat color, hopefully, or something else. Like they barked a little much, but they have really excellent hips, and we want to tighten up those hips. So like maybe we'll have a couple barky puppies, but we'll have solid hips, hopefully. So in the end, it's all a gamble, and we can't control nature, which for someone who likes data and science is really frustrating.
Yeah.
For me. But all breeders can really do is do the best they can with the information we have. So a breeder who is trying to gain more information, support them if you can. And it doesn't have to be me. Like there's not a bunch. There are a few options in each breed, really, that some more than others, that really do care and have been health testing. They're buying dogs from health tested generations 5, 10 back. There are people who are very specific and care about health. I tell people, I'm like, you can get the $50 Craigslist puppy. It could be the best dog you ever own. Like I know that it's going to be a crap dog, but I can bet you that it's going to have a health issue, and it's likely going to have joint issues if it's a giant breed that you're getting off Craigslist from mystery parents that you've never seen dad, and oh my gosh, maybe he was a black lab, not an Anatolian. So like that, it just pops up. If you have the means to invest in, a livestock guardian dog that where it came from, who its parents, grandparents, great-grandparents, tracing it back to whatever country they originated from, you follow it all the way back. I think that's a worthy investment when you're protecting like potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars of property and livestock. It's a small investment relative to what you do for us, I think. So, but I just, I do understand we all start somewhere. My first LGD was from Craigslist. Okay. So like, I don't judge people. Everybody has to start somewhere, but if you can start, you'll have an easier time usually if you get it from working parents who are also health tested, and the breeder gives a shit and will take your phone call at midnight on Christmas Eve because the dog swallowed something, and you're like, do I really have to pay a $3,000 emergency vet bill, or can it wait till morning? And Like, I'm the one who's like, I'll come over and bring some, like, if it's not sharp, like, I'll bring some peroxide and we'll see if we can fix this. Like, you never know. So, but yeah, I mean, you've got to, the support really matters too. And that can come from someone who doesn't health test. You just have to decide your priorities, you know? Everything's a risk. Even from health tested lines can pop with dysplasia if they get overfed or if they are really, really zoomy as puppies and they like to jump off the cliff. It's hard to regulate exercise on a dog that is living with livestock on range, you know? So they tend to self-regulate, especially in the summer. But in winter, they really get zoomy and they can slip on ice, they can fall in a hole, they can do all kinds of fun things that may cause arthritis issues down the road that has nothing to do with genetics. So we do what we can, we prevent what we can, and we just kind of deal with stuff that happens. Because sometimes shit happens.
Yeah, I feel like that's just homestead life. No, we say shit all the time. What's the name of the group?
I'm sorry, YouTube. Yeah, it does happen, and if we can just deal with it. Sorry, I'm plugging in my phone so it doesn't die.
Thanks.
Take this, it comes, and honestly, a dog with bad hips can still have a decent life. Everything comes in grades, and it can be fine for 8 years, and then they just need to stay in a smaller area. Because if you have a dog that's been bred to work for the last 8 generations plus, they're not really going to want to retire to your house. Like, it sounds nice in our brain, but then you try to do it and it stresses them out and they actually injure themselves. Like, and then you feel really bad. So, you know, we have to kind of like think like a dog. If I was a dog who's lived outside primarily my entire life, would I want to retire in a big house? Maybe not. Maybe I'd want to cuddle babies the rest of my life. Like, that's what Infy wants to do in her retirement. I already asked her, so, you know.
All right, so I'm going to read through a couple of the questions here. We'll see how much we can get to before you need to run, because I know you're out on your movie night.
Just my husband. It's fine.
Okay.
We've been married almost 10 years, so he knows. I was like, oh, by the way, I want to see this movie, but I also have an interview. And he's like, tonight? It's in the calendar. I didn't look. So, it's fine.
Okay. So this one is from Gabrielle Stewart. She says she is working on training her first LGD. He's a 1-year-old Anatolian. He's doing really well, but he still gets really rambunctious and runs over the goats. She says he's not unattended with them, and she's always in the pen with him, or he's on a leash. And he has a pen that shares a fence with the goats and chickens. I know they're typically not ready to work full time until closer to 2. I just want to make sure I'm setting him up for success.
Sure. So that's actually really common. And you have a good time to set up. As long as he's not trying to play with them, he's just like bowling them over because he's so excited. You, the human, move away and redirect away from the livestock. They can have zoomies, they can have fun times, and he's not involve other bodies that are not dogs or you. So just back away from the goats, throw some grain at the goats if they're like sticky to you, like mine used to be. And then like escape, like Dory, and just like move away from the goats and be like, oh, good job. As if anything, you know, you can do a single firm correction, but then you want to reinforce what you actually want them to do, or else they're just sitting there like, well, what do you want? So getting them away from the goats and then be like, oh, good dog, like go zoom. And you can put any annoying habits that these dogs develop, because they do. You can put it on cue. So like if they're barking a lot, you can be like, good bark, that's enough, thank you. And then once they shut up, you throw meat at them or something, you know? And then you can just reinforce them over time. Dragging them off is not going to work, because then they're going to be like, that was really high value over there, and I'm going to go back the minute she goes inside or turns around or gets a phone call or a kid needs her. So you don't want to ever like physically move them unless it is like life and death, because then they're like, ooh, that was something cool that just happened and they really wanted me away from it, but that's just because they want it for themselves. It's like, nope, that's not why. But yeah, that type of correction has always reinforced negative behaviors. So don't grab a collar, just throw pull in the opposite direction. And, you know, it doesn't have to be a toy, but it can be like a treat. And if yours hates food, then I'm sorry, and you're going to have to be the draw. So enjoy that.
That's, yeah. What about like e-collars with dogs, like vibrating ones? Does that work for LGDs at all?
That depends on the person holding the remote more than the breed of the dog.
Yeah.
And so if you're a positive only person, just plug your ears real quick. I'll be fast. There's a place and a time for aversive training methods. It is not a good default with LGDs, because if that's what you start at when you have a puppy, you have nowhere to go. So while it is an option, I do not recommend it for someone who is not extensively trained by a person who knows what they're doing, which means hiring someone to come to your property and train you on the delay, and also train you not to correct the stop, because that is the biggest error that people make with e-collars. Whether you're vibrating, beeping, or actually doing the static shock, even a beep at the wrong time, if they've already stopped and you beep, and that's not your good boy beep, it's a FU beep, you could be breaking your dog and not doing any harm, no aversion. You can still do harm to their brain because it confuses them.
Yeah.
So if you're really good with an e-collar, it's fine, because you're only going to have to shock them twice.
Yeah. Yeah. So like just the way that I have used stuff in the past is more like a clicker training, where you associate the sensation with something else. And I use it for like instantaneous reward if they're far away. Like
it's really good for a recall. The beep on one of those collars is really good for a come find me. And you can start that as a game when they're little.
Yeah.
You do the beep and then you take off running away from them, and they're like, oh, beep means go find mom.
Yes.
It can also mean go find the kids. That's a fun one, especially if you're like Huckleberry picking up the mountain and there's a bear. Like, go find the kids and get between the kids and that bear. Thanks.
Yeah.
So like that kind of stuff can definitely work. And I do recommend Sport Dog invisible fence tied to a physical barrier, not just by itself out in the woods. Because these dogs, they will blow the line. And if you don't know that, you know what that is. If the royal you doesn't know what blowing the line is, it's where your dog will time it, how far they have until it vibrates and beeps, and then they back off just far enough, and they figure out where that zone is, and they will extrapolate out, because these dogs are wicked smart, and it's their greatest strength and our greatest aggravation point, right? They will back up about 100 yards usually and get a running start at it, and they will blow through your invisible fence line, and they will get a beep, maybe a vibrate, but they won't get a shock. And they will go pee on all your neighbor's stuff, all their calves, run a couple deer through the neighbors who love the deer, and they'll be on game cams, because everybody has a game cam now. So they'll get caught and you'll get in trouble. And then they'll go run the line again and put themselves back. And you're just like, my dog never left. And then people are emailing you pictures of your dog next door running a bear through their nature preserve. And you're like, sorry. So that's when I got Sport Dog, because my dogs were hopping the forfeit. I don't do prison fencing. I just have like forfeit field fence, and if my goats can stay in it, a damn dog can stay in it. Okay, the dogs need to just chill. It was a habituated bear that kept coming around and pushing it with the dogs. And one day my dogs were like, F it. And they hopped the fence and ran that bear for about 2 miles. And they just came home, hopped back in. And I never knew, I was never the wiser.
Oh.
Until I got an email. So that was good. It's always the people who don't have livestock, right? Who are like, your dog is harassing wildlife. I'm like, well, it was harassing my non-wildlife first, probably, but I have no proof because I was sleeping when this happened. So I sleep now that I have the dogs.
Yeah.
Lovely. But yeah, so being a good neighbor, keeping dogs home.
Yeah.
And Ecollars can help with that. So, yeah, it requires fastidious use and skill on the part of whoever is holding the remote, and you don't give that remote to anybody who is not as good or better than you, right? Because that can ruin things real fast. Because that collar is basically like hand of God. They don't associate it with you necessarily.
Yes.
So when God gets wonky, that's bad news for everybody. So it's a way to give a dog an existential crisis.
It's the best thing to keep dogs off the counters, though. Set up a camera, hand of God in the kitchen. The dog doesn't even know you're there.
Yeah, it's really effective. A lot of LGDs, people have noticed that when they're there, the dog is perfect with the chickens. The dog is perfect with the baby goats. And the minute you go in the goddamn house, that dog is chasing and feathers and doing bad shit because they're like, oh, mom's away, the mice will play.
Yeah.
So they associate you with the rule, not the livestock with the rule. So you go away, the rules go away, and it's a free-for-all, and it's a playground. So an e-collar can also help with that. But again, you have to be good at it. And I also recommend putting it on yourself.
Yeah.
First. That's not bad, first of all. And second of all, if you're going to be doing something to your dog or a horse or a cow, you should probably try it on yourself, at least on a low setting first, so you know what exactly is happening.
Yeah.
And you want someone else to do it to you because it's easier. And you also want them at a distance that you're going to be using it, because you want to know how long it takes to actually hit. So like get 50 yards from your husband and be like, I love you, but your mother. And then he'll go like, you know, or whatever works for you. Your wife, I don't know, whomever, grammar. So yeah, it's always good. I mean, I've worn pin collars, and not because I was like a goth kid in high school, because I wanted to see what actually it did. Because everyone's like, oh, they're spiky and they hurt. I'm like, nope, they go like this. They pinch together on my double chin.
As long as you have the one with the rounded tips. I've had some that are like you know what I'm talking about?
Them.
Oh,
I haven't seen any that come stock that way. I've seen
they're not even
men with very small things sharpen their prong collars.
But the ones I've seen, they're not even sharp. So if you get a really good one, they have like a rounded edge to it, and then they have others that are just blunt. So the corner of the cut is not softened, and that's
okay. Yeah, only buy Hirschspringer prong collars. If you guys are gonna buy a prong collar, spend the triple of money, buy it once, don't leave it outside. You'll actually save money and they'll actually work. Don't buy the cheap ones from Petco. They don't work. I actually had a dog break one yesterday. So a lady brought a puppy to me for retraining, and he literally broke a prong collar that she put him on. And I was like, I asked her specifically, I'm like, is that a prong collar? And she's like, oh yeah, he always wears it. It's fine. And I was like, okay. When I went and picked him up in the middle of the road, that was interesting. But, you know, they're strong. Dogs are strong.
All right.
There's only 80 more questions, right?
There's only 80. We have a lot. We might have to do a second one of these.
Okay, it's fine. I mean, I'm sure by the time my husband walks out of the movie theater, he'll be like, I got your drink.
So this person is, a lot of people are asking for best breed. I'm sure there's not a best breed. Is there one that you think is easier for someone that doesn't have a lot of dog training experience?
So rather than breed, you want to look at temperament. And temperament is a scale, right? So it'll start at soft. And this is the dog where if you look at it across the pasture and you're angry, or if you just have resting bitch face like I do sometimes, that dog is like, oh shit, I'm sorry. I don't know what I did, but I'm sorry. I'll never do it again. Like, how can I help you? That's a soft dog. If you ever yell at that dog, though, or if you have a husband or a wife or a neighbor who is a yeller, when you have a soft dog, that can ruin their day, week, month, year, or life if they're constantly being yelled at because they don't take it well.
Yeah.
So you have to consider not just yourself, but anyone in your household or anyone like in close proximity. If you got like a screaming cowboy who's like never sober next door, bump that temperament scale up a bit, right? Just to protect the dog, because like you can imagine, like there are soft temperament humans. I'm not one of them, but I think we have some in the group who you can read something on the group and like you take it very personally. You're an empath, and you're just like, that hurts my heart that you said that mean thing to that lady. And meanwhile, I'm over here like, just the facts, man. Like I just said the facts, and you're like, but it was cruel and rude, and I'm crying for this person I've never met. You are a soft temperament human, and there's nothing wrong with that. But there's dogs like that. That would be a great match for someone who doesn't maybe know how to correct a dog safely, because you can just look at them and they're just like, I'm so sorry. Right? It's very easy. Your displeasure with these dogs, and they actually give a shit when you're displeased. Whereas the opposite end of the spectrum, the Shars, I can scream like, Wade, God damn it, from like an acre, 3 acres away, and he'll turn and look at me. So I know he saw and heard me, and then he'll be like, back to what he was doing. And it's like, I mean, if it's a bad thing, like if he was chasing somebody or something like that, but he's like, he's peeing over the neighbor's fence on something that they actually, like a game. They put a low game cam up once, and he peed on that thing until it had like a crust around the lens. Like it was disgusting. And I was like, wait, get it off. And I just had to move. I like bought them a new camera and like moved it off the path a little bit. But he knew he wasn't supposed to do that. And it just brought his heart great joy to be a dick. And that's just kind of the Shar way.
I feel that some days though, like
I too resemble that remark. Like I'm not, it's not a judgment, it's just a statement of fact. And so like I think that's why I get along so well with them. It's a damn shame that like no one else health tests in this country. So I don't think I'll have any Shars for a long time.
I have run across some fake health tests. Yeah,
in Montana, there's some fake health tests. On Shars. So
on multiple breeds here. Yeah.
But yeah, so I don't plan on actually breeding because I have my own line. They're related. Like I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
But they're harder temperament. You'll find other dogs. Some Kangal lines and some Anatolian lines can be harder temperament too. One that no one really thinks about being a hard temperament breed. And of course, each breed can scales within it. You can find a softer to medium temperament Shar, and you can find a really stubborn asshole Great Pyrenees. It's just that's not the average. That's not the mean of the breed. And the breed standards tell you what the average, like what they should be. Shars are basically like the standards, like they should be an asshole. Like it's like basically written in there. But yeah, the Commodore, which is the only LGD you should ever shave because they just grow like a poodle. They are actually very, very hard temperament dogs, even though they look like poodles, which is fun for tourists when they see a newly shaved, curly, very fuzzy, look like a doodle in the pasture, and they like call the dog, and the dog comes up the fence, looks like it's gonna eat them and their soul. It's like a fun experiment for townies. Yeah, the Commodores are when you crossbreed them to other LGDs, the hair is a bit of a nightmare. Just like some doodle breeds can be. It's very common to see like a Commodore Great Pyrenees or other breeds, and it can really compound a coat issue real fast or create one for you, which is not great. But they're also very much harder temperament dogs than most people think they are. So it's great if you have a grizzly bear population on your property. It's not great if the biggest thing you have is a raccoon and you have neighbor kids who like drive past your property line every day. So you kind of have to consider your whole environment, not just yourself when you're shopping for a dog.
Yeah.
It's the longest answer to a simple question that there is no best breed. Just find a breeder who understands the temperament and how to assess temperament in their puppies.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question for you.
And be honest with them.
Yes.
On who you are to operate, because everyone thinks there's a right answer, but honestly there's not a right answer. Like, I ask people, I'm like, how do you deal with stubborn animals, like cattle who won't move through a fence, a mule who kicks you and doesn't let you load him with at hunting camp? Like, what is your instantaneous reaction? And if you yell and kick and scream and hit them, that's actually okay. I need to know that, so that I don't let your wife pick out, like, and I don't let people pick, but so I don't let your wife dictate that she wants the soft, easy puppy with the kids. Because you're going to destroy that dog, mister. Usually it's the husband. I sound like I'm a total sexist asshole. It's usually the husband who's home, like, maybe 2 days a week, like, total, who just screams at the dog the whole time because the dog doesn't listen to him. He's like, damn it, I feed you. I pay for your food. You will listen to me. And he's only ever had Labradors, and that worked for him until now. It's a real ego check to have a dog who is very self-assured, knows its job, and by the time they're mature, doesn't need you. Like that, it is an ego blast, right?
Yeah.
We're all raised with pet dogs in our houses, or maybe not, but like the idea is like, you know, dogs love us and they need us. That's why they're domesticated. And it's like, no, we need them. Like, we need LGDs. That's why we made them. We didn't make them to want to be around us 24/7. We made them to go do a job. But you have to let them do their job. And if they're on a scent of something, or if they're barking at a bear that you can't see, and you're like, here boy, come on, come inside, and he's like giving you the finger, you have to be the bigger person or the person, right? And be like, he's working, I'm gonna let him be, rather than get angry or hurt feelings or anything else. It can be our first inclination with a dog that we raise from a puppy, that we feed, that we take care of, you know. So they're just different. They're not wrong. They're not better. They're a little better. Right? I mean, I can go on vacation as long as I properly introduce, like, I have a list of 3 people locally. If I drop dead and my husband also drops dead, who could access the dogs, who could take care of them, who could home them in a responsible manner, and the dogs would be fine. Like, you have to have a will when you have these dogs, by the way, and you have to actually train them for that kind of thing, just in case. That way it never happens. As long as you have a will, you'll never die. No.
Okay, you'll never die. You'll
never die. Just write a will for your dogs, at least. Like, who cares about children or assets? Like, write a will for your dogs. But no, like, as long as you have a plan, like, I can go on vacation and I come home a week later, maybe a year if I'm lucky, right?
Mm-hmm.
Our Chesapeake is like, which is a Chesapeake Bay Retriever, which is like a Labrador on steroids, if you can imagine such a thing.
Yeah.
She is like, I thought you died. Like, I never thought you were coming back. I'm so glad you're here. I might submissive pee for no good reason that I've not done since I was 9 weeks old. But I really miss you, and I want you to know how much I care. Meanwhile, the LGDs out back are like, what's up? They're like the cool kid at college. Or like a teenage boy. They're like, what's up? There's dinner. Like, they give no fucks. It's, sorry, but it's true. They're just like they like me, but they don't need me, which, you know, is nice if I ever do get struck by lightning or some crazy shit. So I like that. Some people need to be needed. Get a pet as well. Get a horse. They love you forever. They live longer than a dog.
So since we were talking about breeds a second ago, someone was asking about, like, breeds with kids. Are there some breeds that shouldn't be around kids that you know of, or are they all pretty much how you train them is what it is?
So if it's really important, especially if you have really small kids, like under 7, if they're like kindergarten and under, if you can get a breeder who also has small children or has small children around the puppies, or at least does really good bite inhibition work with the puppies before they come home, that's going to be your best bet on top of the temperament selection. Breed doesn't really matter, but what I will plug is that there's one in every crowd. So, like, there are Labrador retrievers who have bit children, right?
Yeah.
and they're the best family dog on planet Earth. So just because it's the right breed doesn't mean that you don't have to be careful. Supervise the dogs, supervise the children. The biggest issue that a lot of people come up with is, like, they raise the puppy with their kids, the neighbor kids or your kid's best friend always comes over, they play rough, they include the dog loves the shit out of the neighbor kids, and then one day the kids start smelling weird because they hit puberty and it looks wrong at the dog, and the dog tackles the kid. Usually they're not going to go bite a kid, especially one that they know, but if that kid is playing too rough with the dog's child, that can scare the crap out of the neighbor kid, right? They're not going to be like usually physically hurt unless you have like rocks or stakes or fence posts sticking out of the ground for them to like impale themselves on.
So unless you don't live on a farm, they won't get hurt that bad.
Yeah, but it's like you just don't want to set the dog up for failure.
Yeah.
So don't pretend to be at war with your friend in front of your dog whose goal in life is to defend everything that lives on your property, because that includes kids. So just raise your kids basically to be respectful of the dog, and if they want to play rough, they need to do it out of sight and earshot of the dog, which usually means at the other kid's house.
Yes. Yeah, that's one of the rules we have here, because, you know, with horses and everything else, like when you're out with the animals, you're always calm. If you're running around screaming, get out.
Yeah, because they can get triggered, right? They're prey animals, and the livestock guardian dogs are definitely not prey animals, and they will gladly fix any perceived threat. And that's basically what kids can become if they get super rowdy, super loud, or hitting each other, or, you know, especially if they hit a goat. Like, I've heard stories about, like, even the kids live there accidentally, like, whipping a stick around and, like, making a goat bleat, and the dog tackles its own kid because it's like, hey, they don't mean to, like, hurt the kid or scar them for life, but, like, if a 120-pound dog tackles you and you weigh 70 pounds, like, that's a scary, life-altering potential experience. So, be the grown-up and control.
Yeah. Train your dog, train your kids.
Exactly. It's on both ends. And the breed doesn't really matter. The breeding behind the dog is important. If you take feral dogs off range who have never seen children and you throw them in your backyard with your kids, you did that, not the dog, right? Like, you were complicit at least. So, breed is honestly not the priority. I started with Anatolian Pyrenees crosses. I have one left. I'm moving to AKC Anatolians because I really care about health testing. I'm one of the only, if not the only, actively health testing crossbred LGD people. Like, I pen hipped my Anatolian Pyrenees cross, and people were like, why? I'm like, because the mixes also have hips. It's crazy. Like, they have the same body. So, like, you can go with a mix, especially if they have hopefully some health testing, but good luck. But, you know, if they have kids and you have kids, and they have goats and you have goats, if you have 300 acres you want the puppy to cover, and you're coming to someone like me with 10 acres, that puppy's gonna have a real rough, like, you know, transition period to what you want versus how they started. It's doable, but it's work, and we all have enough of that. So if you want a range dog, go to someone raising them that way so they know what's expected of them. It's a lot easier to be removed from your litter and your mom onto a similar situation. And if you have kids, go to someone who has kids. If you have to go one state or two states over to get the right temperament that also has kids and maybe some freaking hip x-rays, you know, do that. It's legwork when you're buying them. It comes down to, like, it's not about breed, it's about who they want to be when they grow up, and does that match who you want them to be when they grow up, because that's not always a match. But if you can match that up, it's honestly, it's not that hard. Everyone makes it sound like it's super hard to train these dogs. It's inborn in them. They want to do the job. maybe 1 in 10 puppies doesn't really want to be around livestock. That doesn't mean that they won't care. If a coyote comes in and tries to like sniff around, they'll still care, but they want to be around the kids, or they want to be around you. And that's just who the dog wants to be. It's kind of shitty to take a dog who loves the shit out of people and lock it in a barn stall for 2 years and be like, you will work outside and like it. Like there were 9 other puppies in that litter that you could have been honest with the breeder, said I want to live in the barn and work in the barn and never touch my carpet. So help me God. If I have to vacuum any more than I already vacuum, I'm going to shoot the dog. Be honest. Because then they won't give you that puppy, right? So hopefully that's breeder selection.
Yes. Well, okay. So other thing, just talking about outdoor, indoor. I know there's people that want their dog to be both outdoor and indoor. How do you feel about that? And what?
God. Okay. So I have an analogy or a parable, if you will. Let's say you own a hotel and you're hiring a new maid who's you're including like she can live at the hotel. She just has to clean the rooms with a team of other people who clean the rooms and keep everybody chill. The first month that you hire her, you let her sleep in the penthouse. You let her have room service. Other people wait on her hand and foot. You show up as the owner of the hotel and you're like, how can I make your day better? Come with me. Let's go to the pool. Let's chill. Let's watch some Netflix together. I really care about my employees. And then on day 31, you move her down to the basement into essentially like barracks level housing for the servants of the hotel. That's how I think the dogs feel when we take away from their goats, away from everything else that they've hopefully been exposed to at the breeder, and we move them into the house. Immediately, we're like, I'm going to have you next to my body 24/7 for the next month, 2 months, 3 months. And then I'm just going to kick you out cold turkey, which is how most people think that works. They think it increases the bond between the puppy and the people, which, yeah, it does. It can work. It's still pretty damn confusing to the dog. And I have at least 22, maybe 23 now, personal clients who pay me money to help them fix the dog that they did that with. So it might work for some people. It does not work for every dog. And it can be recommended to every situation and every dog. That said, I socialize my puppies. I take them off campus is what I call it, at least once a month. Once they're vaccinated, they go to like a Lowe's or a Tractor Supply or like other feed store or a Home Depot. It is short. It is not when you have a day of shopping to do. Mm-hmm. It needs to be like 5 to 10 minutes in that store, and then you're taking them back home. It doesn't need to be, the point is not to like inundate them with society. The point is to teach them at home you work, in town you're just a dog. You sit when I tell you to sit, you walk on a loose leash, you let other people touch you if I tell you to let other people touch you. That transfers to a veterinarian. That transfers later to, anybody else who might eat that dog. If they're off your property, they know they don't need to defend me from the vet. And they don't need to defend my car from strangers. There's my husband. You guys can meet my husband. But they know at home I'm a working dog. In town, I'm a dog. Everyone say hi, Tim.
Hi, Tim.
Hi.
My handsome husband who enjoyed the movie.
Yeah, that's good.
Awesome. Date night. So yeah, I crate train my dogs. Mm-hmm. Because if they ever do get out and they get picked up by animal control or some well-meaning ignorant citizen, and like they lock them in their dog's crate because they think they're keeping them safe, any crate that someone's going to put your dog in that you don't personally own, your dog can break up and impale themselves or cut themselves up or, you know, cause actual damage to themselves and or others, freaking out, trying to get out. Or just go ahead and plan that again so it never happens, like the will. And just like teach them that good shit happens when they're in a crate. And good shit happens when they're on a chain. You know, like good things happen when you're contained and safe. You instill that when they're tiny, it sticks. You don't have to keep doing it every month for the rest of their lives. You do it once a month at least for their first year that you have them. And if you get them at 3 months old, which is the minimum usually recommended days of having a puppy, like, oh, you're 12 weeks old, I'm bringing you home. You just start doing, you know, regular, normal shit with them that they might come in contact with. Hopefully you take them to a vet. Please take your dogs to a vet. But, you know, getting them used to that stuff, that they're living in your house with you. They don't need to live in your house, need to bond with you. My dogs don't live in my house. And Tim, when I walk outside, what happens?
What?
He doesn't understand the question. He was doing other things. They come up to me. They come check in. They're like, oh, hey, you know, do you have anything yummy? You don't. Okay, bye. And they go back to work. Like, that's fine. They care about my livestock because I told them when they got to my property, this is mine, and this is mine, and this is mine, and you need to protect all of it. Like a Simba moment. like everything the light touches is ours to protect. So like they don't require hand holding. They hate repetition. They'll pick up something for you once. Like I try to play fetch with my dogs just to see, and like I'll drop something and they'll pick it up. I'll be like, oh, can you that? They'll go get it, and then I throw it again and they look at me like I am the dumbest piece of garbage I've ever met, and they like just slowly walk away, like shaking their heads, like something is wrong with Mom. She's broke. And Tim's like, some days you are broke. So yeah, it's just, I don't think it requires having them attached to your human person 24/7. You can do it in small increments. They don't require, and especially if you get it in that first 16 weeks, you start doing things before they're 16 weeks old. Their brain is open for business. You tell them the sky is red. The sky is red. Can they see red? That's another topic for another day. But the sky is red now, right? So anything you tell them, they believe in the socialization window. Once that closes, you just maintain that training. You're like, this is normal. We go to town sometimes. Sometimes we go to the vet and stand on a scale and they give us jerky treat. Worst things could happen. Sometimes they pinch me. Like, it's really weird. And then I don't get rabies for 3 years. It's great. So, you know, like stuff like that. It's just, you don't have to be dramatic or really, really coddly about it. They can just be an outside dog and also come into the house and get in a crate and get good treats. They can get their ass back outside and go to work. You know, and if you like to raise your dogs in the house first, good. I'm happy it's working for you. If it ever stops to be working for you, you can call me. It's fine. I'll work with you because I've figured out how to fix it at this point. So, you know, and it works really well for some dogs. It is basically like some people do that and then they're like, well, I have a pet now, so now I have to buy another puppy and not break this one. And that's a common thing where they're like, I have a house puppy because I screwed that one up and now I'm getting a puppy. And I'm going to do it right this time and I'm going to ignore it and never touch it. And they go like, they swing the opposite direction. I'm like, actually, you need to touch that dog. So, you know, there's a balance like everything. It doesn't have to be all or nothing. They don't have to sleep in your bed with you or like sleep in the snow, have no shelter, no wet water, you know, and never be touched. Like, it doesn't have to be that way. You can actually find balance in your life and their life. I recommend it. Did they bring 2 sodas? Okay, cool. I did. You only brought 1 out, so I was just wondering if that was my way of like.
You want a soda?
Look how big it is. It's as big as my head.
It's a big soda.
Probably for what they charge for.
They are like $12, so He's not wrong. But yeah, it can work. I don't think it's impossible. I just think that it's not the best way if you want to build a trusting relationship and consistency. That's my biggest thing that I preach, I guess you would say, or teach, is consistency. So like you have to kind of self-regulate, and if a lamb dies, you can be sad about it, but you can't go yell at the dog for, you know, the lamb getting pneumonia. It wasn't his fault. So, you know, we have to be the same person every day for the dogs, so they know that they have solid leadership, so they don't get worried. Like, that's our job. Their job is to go chase bears. So, division of labor.
We act like we are rational, and the dogs chase bears.
Perfect. Teamwork makes the dream work, right?
Yeah. All right. Well, we've been on here for almost an hour, so I guess I will let you go. Thank you for joining us, even though it was date night for you.
Okay, I'll take you to a nice dinner.
Okay.
Pretend like it's okay. It's fine. Okay.
We should plan this again so you can answer some more questions on a not date night for you.
That's good. We can do it.
Yes. Just look at your calendar before you say okay to a date next time. That's a
good life tip. See?
Yeah.
Dropping gems.
All right. Well, thank you so much. And yeah, just get back with me, and if we can plan something another time, that would be super awesome. And then do you do phone consult training, or do you have any online training stuff that you offer to people that I can link to them or anything?
Yeah, I can send you a link. But
if you just want to send that to me, and then I can
send it to you. You can put it in
update.
the description or whatever.
Yeah.
I have online classes. So if you are a visual learner or like a writing learner, it's good. I have videos and I have printed content there. If you need to physically do things to learn, it's not going to be your learning style or help you much. But it has helped a decent number of people, which is nice.
Okay, awesome.
So, yeah.
All right.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to press the end button.